John Mcdonnell, just to see if you
I spoke at the founding conference of DPAC in North London, some of you may remember. And at that point in time, we were establishing DPAC because we were already experiencing the first wave of really severe austerity measures attacking people with disabilities, disabled people. And what was happening as individual MPs as well was that people were turning up in our constituencies then, already being sanctioned, and we were seeing the first wave of suicides as a result. And to be frank, it was heartrending. So we set up DPAC to do what? One was to expose what was going on, and two was to counter the actions of the government on austerity, and three was to find a way forward in the development of policy for when a Labour government is elected. In terms of the exposure, DPAC has done a fantastic job in exposing what's going on. We did the petition as well with war, if you remember, and we did that and we secured a parliamentary debate. At that point in time, we were trying to press the government to publish the analysis of the coroner's reports that we knew they were monitoring. And if you remember, Esther McVeigh was the minister, refused to publish any of those reports. We said then that the suicide levels were increasing. I read Callum's list out in that debate as it was then, and some of the heartrending examples of that, which were dreadful, to be honest. They refused to publish that. We now know at least 600 people have committed suicide as a result. We now know that people in their thousands have been assessed for ready for work and then dying before they take the work up. That's how why we demonstrated that killed and injured as well.
There's also been asked in those assessments, why haven't you killed yourself?
Exactly. We've been able, DPAC's first role was to expose what's going on. Effectively, that's what DPAC has done, expose what's going on. The second role was to oppose what's happening, and to be frank, the demonstrations and the direct action that we undertook, and I just pay tribute to all those people who participated in it, to force Atos to give up the contract was a huge victory. Then to have Maximus then take it over gives us our second target, and I agree we need an inquiry into their role. I'd like an inquiry to extend far back as Atos as well, because they took large amounts of money for this contract. To be frank, they made great profits out of it, and I think there's a time for social justice about both their roles. If there's to be any form of support for people, it should be done by the state, not private companies. It's as simple as that. And when I say support for some, that leads on to the policy that we've developed through DPAC working with others, which is very straightforward. We scrap the whole of the WCA system. We scrap it. What we want is a system where people get support and assistance. Because alongside the WCA introduction and its abusive implementation, at the same time social care cuts have gone on a huge scale. 4.5 billion is cut by this government from social care. People think social care is largely about elderly. It isn't. It's about a large range of people with disabilities and special needs. That's gone. 1 million people now not getting the care that they used to get only a few years ago as a result of those cuts. So what we've said very, very clearly, we will scrap the WCA. We will restore the social care funding that we need for people, so that people are properly cared for. But actually also we need to ensure that we recognise the care that's provided by families. That means the policy of increasing the care allowance at least at the GSA level and getting some additional support in there. But it also means actually recognising that caring is a profession and actually should be supported and developed. In fact, just coming at it economically from the Treasury point of view, if you invest in care, actually it's one of the best multipliers within the wider economy overall as well. So in addition to that, we want to ensure that we scrap the sanctions regime once and for all. There's always been an element, even from way back to the founding of the welfare state, that if someone was thought they were swinging the leg or something like that, you'd be brought in and whatever. But there's never been a sanctions regime that we've ever seen. That was never the intention of the original welfare state. It never was. And on the scale it's been introduced at the moment, it is absolutely barbaric. Now then what happens, can I just say in terms of how we reform social security, do not call it welfare. It is social security. We will not accept welfare. How we reform it is the debate that we've now got to have. From the Labour Party, we've set up a working group under one of my team called Johnny Reynolds on universal basic income. Some of you may recall about 4 years ago, It might have been in this room. We had an open public meeting as part of People's Parliament where we got a number of speakers along on the universal basic income. We've taken that now to the heart of the Labour Party. There's a working group. The advisors to that met for the first time a few weeks ago. One of the key advisors is a guy called Guy Standing. And what's been good about Guy is internationally renowned as an economist, but also he's been taken up by a number of the media. He's got a Penguin book coming out in a month's time on universal basic income. And again, what we want to do is popularise it, because there will be resistance to any moves towards, almost certainly by the mass media, Daily Mail, etc. But to be frank, we might be able to introduce it almost on an incremental basis. We'll have to look at the tactics on that. But if you look, when I was a youngster and I came off the shop floor, I worked at the TUC, and it was the Child Poverty Action Group linked to the TUC, but actually it was the TUC that did it, that won the argument about child benefit. And at that point in time, the same arguments were used against child benefit as we used against universal basic income. The arguments were to introduce child benefit, all these working class people will have children coming out of that sort of stuff. Our argument then that we won was that no child should live in poverty, therefore there should be a right, of basic income to children through their parents to seek to lift them out of poverty. Now, again, that's one of the arguments, and we won that argument. That's one of the arguments that we've got to use about how we reform the welfare system. It might well be incrementally that we introduce it for certain groups within society, and we build it up to a universal basic income for everybody. So I agree, that's the way forward. Any form of means-tested system is going to have significant losers in it, there's no doubt about it. But in addition to that, just coming at it in terms of basic economics is 12 times more costly to administer than a straightforward benefit system in terms of that child benefit as well. So the logic is there. So in the role, I just pay tribute to what TPAC has done, both in terms of exposure, in terms of campaigning against the existing system, but then also leading it towards what I think is potentially a more civilised system. The next wave, I think, is to continue on those three tranches of activity, keep exposing what's going on. I think Paul, the stuff today is fantastic. We should get you on tour on that. We'll build it into the world. We're doing the World Transformed Again Labour Party conference as part of the Fringe, so we'll build you into that as well. We'll get you an Australia.
You pay their fares because these guys are right, couldn't do that. These guys here.
It's always a team and solidarity. We've got Ken Loach working with us now in terms of developing a number of a sequence of films, and we'll make sure this area is covered within that to popularise them. I think the work he did on I Daniel Blake was just superb, and we've got him touring around the country now, meeting in community halls and all the rest of it, showing it for free and getting that debate going. So in terms of this next period, we've got to intensify the campaigning, consolidate Labour Party policy, and to be frank, get rid of this government at the first opportunity and replace it with
One last word from me. Don't let the bastards bring you down.